All right, Shalom. I'm gonna give all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh, Bashem, Yahweh Shah, Bashem Rakakadash. Double honors once again to the elders apostles of GMS. Peace, blessing, and salutation again to the hopeful elect. All right. And this lesson here is gonna be on a dream I had earlier today, early this morning on the M.O.T.B. All right. And I'll say this, I'm not the type of brother that constantly have uh dreams like that. Uh you know, what I want to say, like prophetic dreams or whatnot. But when I have them, I have them. All right. In this particular dream, it seemed like, just to get down straight to it, it seems like I was traveling, like everything. I guess the system, a lot of things have broken down for us as a society, and it was the implementation of the mark of the beast is already in play. All right. And, things with this, uh, most things was at a standstill, you couldn't move around too much, and it seemed like they had a lot of people traveling, on foot, and that would have seemed like I had traveled from on foot from where I stay here in Louisiana, in particular New Orleans, all the way to Houston, because I remember this particular stretch of highway. And anybody who knows Houston, it's a particular point around Houston, around Katy Freeway, and like the 610 area of Katy Freeway. And what and I'm gonna show this picture too, all right, because this is how it was. If you see this picture, this is from the movie Children and Men. I would play a video, but they'll do the copyright shit. But things looked like this. It was real gritty. All right. It seems as if I was I was in a third person state point of view as I was traveling. I was kind of like, traveling from afar. I had on like rough clothes. Everybody else around me had rough clothes on. All right. They had a lot of tents, a lot of box houses, like people made houses out of boxes. All right. You had a lot of people on the sidewalks, a lot of women with babies, begging and crying. There was a lot of anguish, a lot of things that was going on at this particular time. All right. And as I was traveling through, it's like the Lord had me in a state of just watching everything. And they had a lot of uh on this particular side of the side of the highway, they had a lot of, seemed like, stores and vendors. And I'm gonna say this, man, you couldn't even get a piece of fruit unless you had the chip. All right. Because a lot of things I kept hearing in there, they had signs up, and he also had it to where he had like paid people that was waiting on the side for people that broke down, in the sense of not wanting to deal with being in the state of, in this type of state. Because one thing I noticed too, they had turned people against each other. All right. Like the people who had the chip, they would reign free. They would walk around and do their thing. And the people that didn't have the chip would be in this type of state right here on, that particular side of town. So when uh when you would try to go through the different like marketplaces, and people had fruit and seafood and things they were selling on the side, you couldn't even get that unless you had the chip, and you had a lot of people homeless begging. It was a lot going on, and you had the people that had the chip. They were kind of like in a more boastful state, but they would look down upon the people who had the chip. All right, in a sense. And then, like I said, they had these people that Esau had set up with signs to like, come take the. They were saying biometric chip in my dream. All right, I heard that a lot. As I was passing through certain parts of this particular part of town. And I would say this: a lot of people did break. In the sense of, I can't take this shit no more, and they went and got in those little makeshift trailers, and I guess got the chip. All right, but as I was passing through, it seemed like I was set for a particular. I was going somewhere. All right, but as I was going, I also noticed they had like a guy. I guess he must have had the chip. And I was cutting through a real big, because Houston has these real big car lots. If you ever been out there, you'll see in Toyota, you'll see these different car lots. It's real big. As I was cutting through, I guess a particular guy who had the chip, he was cutting through, and I seen a salesman even tell this guy like, "Hey, you can't even look at a car." As far as viewing it and want to test drive it, want to just even look at it. He was like, "You have to have the chip." The guy was like, "Oh, whatever happened with that, I guess he had the chip or whatever." But it just showed you how, just not saying my dreams is true, but it is what it is. It's like it seems that's just might be a look into how things might be. But I want to bring this particular scripture out too, man. All right. This is Acts chapter 2, verse 17. It said, it shall come to pass in the last days, said the Most High, I will pour out my spirit unto all flesh, and your sons and your daughters shall prophesy, and your young men shall see visions. All right. And your daughters, my bad, and your old men shall dream dreams. You see? And I want to go, hold up. Like I say, I don't usually dream like that a lot. But when I do it, it'd be real. And like I say, and it seems like I say, I was in a third person state, but everything that was going on, I was there, I was locked in, but it seemed like as I'm going through, nobody really noticed me. Like I was in like a gray man state. Like people really didn't notice me. I mean, people bumped into me. You can feel the climate outside, everything just seemed real, the smells, everything, but you seen the anguish on people's face. You seen how Esau seemed like he had zones set up. Like he had people that had the chip would be in this particular zone. People who didn't have the chip would be in another zone. Or they'll have a place where they're kind of mixed in with each other. But like I say, you couldn't even get a piece of fruit. Excuse me. All right, unless you had the chip. Because it seemed like that's what I was. I was headed up to a particular place, and at the end of the day, I would say, just to get to the point too, it's like the Lord had me going to a particular point in the dream, and once I got there, I got food, and I woke up, But it just shows you how things might look in this society, man. And like I said, it was a very grimy state like this, This how things were, you know. You had men, you had women, you had young children. Everybody was out like outside on the sidewalk. You had tents everywhere. You had little stores and different things were open and operating, but you couldn't move. You couldn't do buy, sell, do what you wanted to do. They had a lock on everything. That's my point. They had a lockdown on everything. Even a store vendor that was like a guy in everybody's town that would have watermelon fruits. All right, out selling at the back of his trucks, little, people selling the oils on the side. They was all down with the system. They all got down with the system, and it was saying, get your biometric chip. You got to have the biometric chip in order to buy this. But it also says in verse 18, in my servants and my young maidens, I will pour out in those days of my spirit, and they should prophesy. All right. And that's why as we get even much closer to the end, you have brothers, children, young children, 5, 3, 5. I didn't heard it, different brothers, children out there prophesy of Yahweh Shai. They will prophesy of the end times, the missiles, all right, the M.O.T.B, all right, the different deliverance of brothers and brothers' families and brothers' wives. Even brothers' wives, in certain senses, will have dreams. Apostle Tahar would talk about it all the time. How his woman will have prophetic dreams. Scriptural dreams. Things that she'll say a dream that he can link it up with the scriptures. Same thing. Well, that's why I'm doing this. But these are the times that the Lord will pour out His Spirit. All right, that brothers that's in the truth. Brothers, family members, or whatnot, will prophesy these dreams. Even people close to us. All right, because we're in those times. All right. I want to go from there to here because I said something too in the dream. This is Well, I don't have the apocryphal here, but I read it. This is Second Ezra chapter 16, verse 18. I'm gonna get straight to the point because I talked about how people was in anguish. People were in a real going back to this. When you watch this movie here, Children of Men, you'll see that there's a lot of parts of this movie like everything is real grimy, broken down society in a sense. And like I said, it seems like in the dream I had earlier this morning, all right, the people that didn't have the chip will be on this type of side of town, and there was a lot of outdoor, selling and trading amongst people, man. All right, as I was traveling. But it says, Second Ezra 16 and 18 says, the beginning of sorrows and the beginning of mournings, the beginning of famine and great debt, the beginning of wars and the powers shall stand in fear, the beginning of evils, and what shall I do when these evils come? All right. And that's what, one of the scriptures remind me of, because there was a lot of sorrow, a lot of great mourning going on in that time, man. On top of the chip at that time being implemented, I guess it seemed like it was going on for a while to where you did had a lot of people that wasn't going for it, And like I said, the people that wasn't going for it were looked down upon. All right. You couldn't do nothing. People were like pillaging. I guess that's what I was doing, like kind of just looking for I was on my way somewhere, but I also was looking for food, and like I say, the Most High was able to give me food that was stored up somewhere. All right. But everybody else was in a bad state, man. A real bad state, But I'm gonna go here and I might just end it because I want to just make this quick. I didn't want to ramble on too long, But this is Revelations chapter 13, verse 16. And he calls it all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in his right hand or in his forehead. All right. And that's what, in that particular time of my dream. And because, like I said, this really stuck with me because, like, most time when you have a dream, man, you forget a lot of stuff, man. A lot of things, a lot of detail things would be forgotten. But like I said, this kind of stuck with me real deep, and just like I say, just a insight on how things might be. I'm not saying they will, but it give you an idea, all right, how this society might come to, because we're already coming into a cashless society, a digital society. All right, everything is transitioning from cards to, you got these phones now, and then ultimately these they're going to put the charagma, which is that's what the mark here goes into your right hand or in your foreheads, man. All right. Society, as you know, is transitioning into a digital state. All right. And like I say, with these, what the scripture going to right here, where the point at? The scripture that goes into this part right here, it says, "In that no man shall buy or sell save he that has the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name." But going to here, that's the part I missed. 18, he calls it, and that he is who? The International Jewish 1948 of bankers, man. The ones that are in power and control these systems that are set up. All right. These different systems, these different events, all right, what they're gonna call small and great people of the society, rich and poor people, to receive a mark in their right hand to their foreheads, man. All right. And all these small vendors, these box stores, these mom and pop stores, in order to survive, in order to stay open, they're going to get them even down with the program. So that's what, it reminded me of my dream. All right. Even some of those people got down with the program. You couldn't, like I said, you couldn't get a small fruit. All right. Unless you had like I said in dream, a lot of people that had these stores in different shops were saying, do you have your biometric chip? All right. And then a lot of people who didn't have it, they would get shunned off. Like, oh yeah, get out of here, you know. So it shows you just how this society is going to get down. A lot of businesses, mom and pop, gonna get down. They're gonna get these chips, man. A lot of you Israelites out there, all right, because you you've been receiving benefits so long, as you can see now, a lot of N-dubs out here complaining and crying and griping because of the SNAP benefits being taken for. A lot of things are being taken away. What you think going to happen when this chip roll out, man? They're going to get down with the program to receive those benefits again or to receive even more. All right. And like I said, that's what happened too in the dream. Esau seemed like he had certain people set up as vendors promoting those to get down with the biometric chip. All right. They had signs up and they had certain places to go. And like I said, you had people that cracked. All right. You had people that folded to the point, I don't want to live like this no more. I'm going to go take it. All right. And it goes on to say, and that no man may buy nor sell save he have the mark. Unless you have the mark, you're not going to be able to buy or sell. That what was going on in my dream earlier, Or, all right, the name of the beast or the number of the beast, or the number of his name. But that's what, that's how my dream went, man. Like I said, I don't have them much, but when I do, they be real in depth. They be real. It seemed like you actually there or whatnot. I just wanted to share that. But at the end of the day, too, I want to say, man, the elect, right? You brothers and sisters out there that are all of the sincere, we have hope, man. The scripture tell you that my servants shall eat. So the Lord gonna allow us, and like I say, Lord will be like that in that day for brothers, man. That we be in a third person state. We see those things going on around us. All right, we see certain things go down, but it don't come our way though. The Lord makes a way for us to find food, eat, and ultimately survive. Until the sun comes, man. All right, so with that, I'm going to end it right here and give all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh, by Shem, Yahweh Shah, by Shem Rakakadash. Once again, double honor to the elders apostles. Peace, blessings, and salutations again to the sincere and to the hopeful elect out there. Shalom.